horses were fundamentally important because they did all the things. They were effectively the vehicles, the motor vehicles and the tanks and the helicopters and the trucks of their day. So actually most of the horses were important not for being used directly in the war in terms of cavalry and officers' horses, but for pulling and carrying, so pulling heavy guns and pulling trucks and carrying ammunition and things like on their backs. By the time the horses got out actually to what they were doing in the front, they'd have been shipped around a lot by train and ship and so on. I think all of the horses were subject to the same sort of bad conditions, whether they were cavalry horses or the horses doing the pulling and carrying. Most of the time they'd be tethered at night out in the open, so they, particularly at the start of the war, there were large losses due to cold. At the start of the war, about 9% of the horses that were out there were there to be used in a traditional cavalry role.
To beat the German guns would take stealth and courage from both man and horse. However, there's no doubt that Britain couldn't have won the war without them.
My name's Becky Prince. I'm the Rolleston Rehoming Centre Deputy Manager. Rolleston Centre was bequeathed to us in 1990 by Robert Archer in memory of his wife Hilda. BlueCross was set up in 1897 and it was established and recognised that there was a need to promote kindness and encouragement of good welfare practices for animals, including horses. So the Rolleston Centre was set up in 2006 and really was setting up a rehoming service in the Midlands area and the north. Prior to this, there wasn't any charities that offered the same sort of rehoming services that we do today. So horses can come in for a variety of reasons. So they may come in, perhaps they've come with a large group that's been seized either by the RSPCA, the police or trading standards. A lot of horses come into us from the fly grazing situation, so really horses that don't have owners, they're abandoned and that are removed. The legal process has gone through for removing those horses. And then we get those come to the centre, they'll come to us, they've not had much handling, they haven't really had an experience of people, or they could come to us having had a bad experience, and that's quite intensive when they arrive here to go through there, to go and get some handling for them. So once the horse has arrived at the centre and gone through its assessment and any training it requires, we then have an idea of what type of home we're looking for. We might rehome them just as a companion-only home, or it might be a pony that can go out and do all riding activities. So we go through a bit of a training programme, they'll be advertised, we have an online application process, so all the horses are available on our website and their information's on there and what type of home they're looking for. So we have a team here of 16 people. That consists of the centre manager, deputy centre manager, myself. We have a volunteer coordinator. Then on the yard side of things we have a head groom who's overall in charge of the care of the horses. We then have riding or senior grooms which would act in the absence of the head groom, again being in charge of the yard and the horses and their care. We would then have horse care and riding rooms that would provide the day-to-day care and exercising and training of the horses. And then we also have, as I say, a volunteer coordinator that looks after our many volunteers that we have that help us with various tasks from horse care to gardening and transporting as well.
So this is the tap room. This is where we keep all the horses tapped for when we're exercising. So on this wall here you can see all the different saddles. They're different shapes and sizes for the different horses, and we make sure for each horse or pony they're fitted with the saddle when they come in that's comfortable for them to use. And then round onto this wall, this is the bridles. As you can see, the names for each individual horse, again fitted to each horse when they come in, so they have their own bridle for working. Then just onto here, on the top here, you can see these are the girths. So these attach onto all the different saddles. We just have a lot of different sizes for the ponies. And then moving on here, these are called lunging rollers, and they usually have a pad which are all on the top there with a roller. This is for lunging for sort of younger horses and ponies before they start to do ridden work. They have sort of ground work. And then just the other bits in here, we keep our sort of fly masks and grooming stuff in here, any sort of sun fly spray the horses need in the field, and that's pretty much everything in here.
The different times of year, really, it doesn't really change. We're always having horses or sort of horses needing to come into our care. We're taking predominantly horses from welfare backgrounds, so they would be horses that maybe fly grazed, and those horses that really don't have the owners. But we also take horses in from private homes, and we pretty much sort of help wherever we can. We average sort of 45 to 50 horses on site at any one time, but obviously the weather can impact our work. For example, in the winter when it's very wet, we sort of our facilities are stretched in that time of the year. But really sort of, it never really quietens down. It's busy throughout the year for people needing to rehome their horses, or horses needing homes that don't have any owners. So every horse is an individual, so we would look at that particular horse, what its needs were, what companionship it needs. We usually try and house similar horses together so that their dietary requirements can be matched together, but we just really look at each individual horse and that individual horse's requirements and adapt to that particular horse's needs. Once we have advertised them and somebody has applied for them, we'll then look at getting that person in for an appointment at the centre. So that gives the person the chance to meet that horse or pony. We can have a chat with them as well. We can assess their riding and their handling experience and see if that matches, really pretty much sort of a matching process with the horses or ponies. If everything's okay and we look to move forward with that, we'll carry out a home visit at the property, make sure that the facilities meet the requirements of that individual horse or pony, and then we'll then look to rehome. And that really isn't where it finishes, because we currently sort of monitor the horses or ponies in the home. So we will carry out follow-up visits and offer support if there are any issues that arise. And we actually retain ownership of the horse. So once it is signed into Blue Cross care, it will belong to the Blue Cross for the rest of its life. It can't then be sold on and end up perhaps at market. We have several wood chip areas around the site which are great again for housing horses communally. They are out in the fresh air, but if needed they're off the grass for whatever reason, whether it's recovering for a veterinary illness or whether it is perhaps they're on a weight loss programme where they need to restrict their grass intake. But these facilities are excellent for us to manage each horse or pony's requirements on an individual basis. Crew barns can provide a variety of housing for horses, either communally together or for whatever reason they need to be off the grass. The crew barns are undercover and can be bedded down to different types of bedding for each particular horse or pony. These areas are quite large, which gives them more space than an individual stable, and would be able to house more than one horse or pony in each section of the crew barns. Our facilities include a stable block, crew barns, a hay barn, a large arena and a small arena for exercising the horses. We also have field shelter complexes providing accommodation for horses, as well as wood chip areas providing off the grass accommodation as well. In addition, we have a horse walker, which is great for us for exercising the horses that perhaps can't be ridden. For exercising the horses, we have a large sand arena, which is a great all-weather surface for the horses and ponies. We also have a smaller, what we call our lunging arena. This allows us to exercise the horses from the ground and is a smaller area. Well, the Blue Cross is a charity where it does cater for other animals as well. Some of the other rehoming organisations, they all work slightly different, so it's difficult to put one out above the rest. We don't offer retirement, we're purely sort of a rehoming service. Other organisations offer that retirement for horses, we all work slightly differently, but ultimately for the same aim to help many horses as possible.